Welcome to our channel. From everyday change to collector's treasures, these one-dime coins have stories that make them truly priceless. Stick around as we reveal the surprising details and values behind these small but mighty coins. Have you ever come across a coin in your pocket and paused, just for a second, to ask yourself if it might be worth more than what it says on the surface? That's where we're starting today. It might seem like an ordinary coin, but this one, a 1981 Roosevelt Dime, is far from typical when found in the right condition. Let's take a closer look. This coin was minted in 1981, and the small D mark just to the side of the date tells us it was produced at the Denver Mint. By this time, the Roosevelt Dime had already been in circulation for 35 years. The design hadn't changed much since its introduction in 1946, shortly after the death of President Franklin D. Roosevelt. The coin was meant to honor his memory and his contributions, including his leadership during the Great Depression and World War II, as well as his connection to the National Foundation for Infantile Paralysis, which later became the March of Dimes. The design of the Roosevelt Dime is simple and clean. On the front, you see Roosevelt's profile facing left. The word Liberty runs along the left side, with "In God We Trust" placed just below his chin, and the date, 1981, toward the bottom. Just to the right of the date is the mint mark. The back of the coin features a lit torch in the center, with an olive branch to one side and an oak branch on the other. These symbols represent liberty, peace, and strength. Above the torch, you'll find the words, United States of America, and just below that, the national motto, E Pluribus Unum. At the bottom, one dime. By 1981, the Roosevelt Dime was made of copper-nickel clad, rather than the silver used in earlier decades. The coin has a pure copper core with outer layers of copper and nickel, giving it a silvery appearance. The edge is reeded, which is a typical feature meant to deter counterfeiting and clipping. It weighs about 2.27 grams and measures 17.91 millimeters in diameter. Now, let's talk about how common this coin is, or isn't. In terms of mintage, the Denver Mint produced a large number of Roosevelt Dimes in 1981. Tens of millions, in fact. So if we're just talking about how many exist, the answer is, a lot. Most of these coins entered circulation quickly, where they were used for everyday purchases, vending machines, pay phones, you name it. Over time, like any coin in circulation, they wore down. The surfaces dulled, fine details wore away, and contact marks built up from clinking around with other coins. Even uncirculated examples, that is, coins that were never used in regular transactions, are still relatively easy to find. They might have been pulled from fresh rolls by collectors, or set aside by chance. In good but average condition, these uncirculated coins might be worth a few dollars, maybe $2 to $10, depending on eye appeal. So what makes this particular 1981 Roosevelt Dime so special? It all comes down to condition and quality. Coin collectors, or numismatists, use a grading scale that ranges from poor to mint state. At the top end of the scale are coins graded MS 60 through MS 70. A coin graded MS 70 is considered flawless under 5x magnification. No scratches, no dullness, no toning, no nicks. The luster is original, and all design details are sharp and complete. It's extremely rare to find a modern coin, especially a circulating coin like the 1981 Roosevelt Dime, in MS 70 condition. That's why, when a coin like this appears in what's considered nearly perfect condition, it catches the attention of serious collectors. They look for precision in the strike, meaning how clearly the design has been stamped onto the metal. They look at the smoothness and reflectivity of the surfaces. They look at the coin's color and shine, checking whether it still has the original mint luster. And most importantly, they check for contact marks or handling damage, which are common even on coins that were never used. For the 1981 Roosevelt Dime, only a very small number have been found in exceptionally high grades. One particular example stood out for meeting all the high standards. It was professionally graded and certified, which means experts examined the coin under magnification and gave it an official grade. This provides both the buyer and the seller with confidence that the coin is what it appears to be. Having that certification is key to establishing a coin's market value, especially when we're talking about pieces in the upper end of the grading scale. Now let's talk about value. Your average 1981 D Roosevelt dime, even in decent condition, isn't going to break the bank. Like we said earlier, it might be worth a few bucks to someone looking to complete a date and mint collection. But a coin that's been preserved in nearly flawless condition for more than 40 years, that's a different story. This particular 1981 D Roosevelt dime, graded at the highest level, was offered for sale through a trusted coin dealer network. Interest built steadily among collectors who understood exactly how rare this coin was, not rare because of low mintage, but rare because of its pristine condition. Eventually, the coin changed hands. And here's the part that might surprise you, it sold for $88,000. Next, we move on to a coin that you've probably seen dozens of times, maybe even hundreds, without thinking twice. It's the 1991 D Roosevelt Dime. At first glance, there's nothing about this coin that jumps out. It's small, familiar, and has been used in daily transactions across the United States for over 30 years. But as we often say in the world of coin collecting, sometimes it's not about rarity in numbers, it's about quality. And in this case, quality makes all the difference. Let's start with the basics. The 1991 D dime was minted at the Denver Mint, which is what the D stands for next to the date on the coin. The Roosevelt Dime series began in 1946 to honor President Franklin D. Roosevelt. His leadership during World War II and his role in founding the March of Dimes, an effort to fight polio, made him a strong symbol for this denomination. Since then, the design has remained mostly unchanged. The front of the coin shows Roosevelt in profile, facing left. The inscriptions are simple: Liberty, to the left, In God We Trust, below the chin, and the date, 1991, to the lower right. The mint mark, D, is just next to the date. On the back, you'll see a torch in the center, flanked by an olive branch and an oak branch, representing liberty, peace, and strength. It also reads, United States of America, e pluribus unum, and, of course, 1 dime. This is a copper-nickel clad coin, which means it has an outer layer made of a mixture of copper and nickel, bonded to a solid copper core. Since 1965, this has been the standard composition for U.S. dimes. So there's no silver content in the 1991 D dime. It weighs just over 2.2 grams and has the usual reeded edge, those small ridges around the outside that help prevent counterfeiting and give the coin a distinctive feel. In 1991, the Denver Mint produced tens of millions of Roosevelt dimes. These were standard circulating coins meant to be used, not saved. As a result, the vast majority of them entered circulation quickly and picked up the usual signs of use: surface scratches, dulling of the design, edge wear, and small dings from being handled, dropped, or stored with other coins. Even coins that were never spent but were pulled from fresh rolls at banks often show signs of light contact, just from bouncing against each other in bags or containers. So while uncirculated 1991 D dimes are not hard to find, truly pristine examples are very few and far between. This is where the grading system comes in. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 being a perfect, flawless coin. Most coins, even uncirculated ones, fall somewhere in the 60 to 66 range. Higher grades like MS 67 and above are significantly harder to achieve, and the number of coins that reach MS 68 or MS 69 is very small. MS stands for mint state, which means the coin has never been used and has all its original mint features intact. Collectors who focus on modern coins, especially clad coins, are often searching for the absolute best preserved examples. For coins like the 1991 D dime, it's not about how old it is, or whether it has an error. It's about finding one that was struck sharply, stored carefully, and somehow survived the decades without developing flaws. And that brings us to one exceptional example of the 1991 D Roosevelt dime. This coin stood out from the rest due to its nearly flawless condition. The strike was sharp, the surfaces were clean, and the original mint luster was still intact. There were no visible scratches, no handling marks, and no signs of environmental damage like toning or spots. It looked almost exactly as it did the moment it left the press, which is extremely rare for a coin intended for everyday use. The coin was professionally graded by a well-known certification company, confirming its top-tier quality. These certifications help collectors trust what they're buying, because the grading process involves careful inspection under magnification and multiple lighting angles. The coin's high grade placed it among the finest known examples of its kind. Now, if you're wondering what kind of value that condition adds, consider this: most 1991 D dimes, even in decent shape, are worth face value, 10 cents. Uncirculated ones might fetch a few dollars. But when a coin reaches a top-end grade and only a handful of others are known to exist in similar condition, that changes the equation entirely. This specific 1991 D dime, due to its condition and certified grade, reached a value of $68,000, not because of its metal. Not because of an error. Not because of low mintage. Just pure preservation and quality, combined with collector demand for coins at the top of the grading scale. It's worth noting that this kind of value is extremely rare. Most collectors will never come across a coin like this in their own pocket change or coin rolls. But it's a reminder that quality matters, even for coins that seem common at first glance. So if you ever come across a 1991 D Roosevelt dime that looks brighter, sharper, and cleaner than usual, don't overlook it. While it's probably just a regular coin, there's always a chance it could be something more. And if it's preserved in near-perfect condition, it could be worth far more than anyone would expect from a 10-cent piece. Now let's explore a coin that most people wouldn't give a second look, a coin so common in appearance, it might be sitting unnoticed in a drawer, in a coin jar, or even in your pocket right now. We're talking about the 1999 D Roosevelt dime. At first glance, there's absolutely nothing unusual about it. It has the same design that's been used for decades. It's small, lightweight, and for most of its life, it's been worth exactly 10 cents. But what happened with one specific example of this coin completely shifted the way collectors think about modern pocket change, and how even the most routine-looking coins can hold hidden potential. Let's set the scene. The year was 1999, the final year of the 20th century. The world was caught up in the excitement and uncertainty of Y2K. The internet was rapidly expanding, cell phones were becoming more common, and the U.S. Mint was deep into the first phase of its wildly popular 50-state quarters program. While most public attention was focused on those new quarter designs, the Roosevelt dime continued to be quietly minted and circulated, largely unchanged and unnoticed. At the Denver Mint, production of the 1999 Roosevelt dime followed the standard procedure: high-speed presses, bulk packaging, and large-scale distribution. Nothing about this coin's production was rare. It wasn't a limited edition, and it didn't include any unusual design variations. These were standard-issue dimes made from a copper core with a nickel outer layer, following the same specifications that had been in place since 1965. In fact, the 1999 D Roosevelt dime was one of the most widely produced dimes of the decade. That alone would seem to disqualify it from being collectible. After all, if something is common, how can it be valuable? But here's where it gets interesting: in coin collecting, rarity doesn't always mean low mintage. Sometimes, it means high quality within a high mintage coin, something that sounds contradictory at first, but makes perfect sense when you dig deeper. See, while millions of these dimes were made, only a tiny fraction were struck with exceptional sharpness and preserved in pristine condition. Most were quickly circulated, collecting scratches, dulling, or fading. Even those stored in mint rolls often show signs of minor contact, tiny nicks or scuffs from bumping against other coins during packaging or transit. So, when a coin is discovered that somehow avoided all of that, a coin with clean, smooth surfaces, sharp detail, and its original luster completely intact, it grabs attention. In the case of this 1999 D dime, one particular example stood out in a way that very few modern coins do. This coin wasn't just nice. It was nearly flawless, showing no signs of handling, no contact marks, and a strike so precise that even the finest design elements were completely intact. Under magnification, graders saw full detail in Roosevelt's hair, razor-sharp lettering, and strong definition on the reverse torch and branches. The mint luster was undisturbed and evenly reflective across both sides of the coin. That level of preservation is extremely rare for a circulating coin from the 1990s. And that's where professional grading becomes important. Coins like this are submitted to third-party grading services, where experts evaluate their condition using a 70-point scale. A coin must be practically perfect to score MS 68 or higher, especially for a modern clad dime. While a lower mint state grade, say MS 65, might be relatively common for this coin, pushing into the upper 68 to 70 range becomes a very short list, often less than a handful of known examples. The 1999 D dime in question achieved one of these top grades. It joined a category so exclusive that even many longtime collectors had never seen another in comparable condition. When this happens, the coin's value increases not because of what it's made of or how old it is, but because of how few others like it exist. For collectors who specialize in top population coins, those with the highest known grades for their issue, a piece like this becomes an essential target. These collectors are often building registry sets, which rank collections based on the quality of each coin. In such a competitive space, owning one of the finest known examples of a common coin becomes a big deal. Now, this is where the story takes a dramatic turn, not in how the coin looks, but in what it was ultimately valued at. Despite being a standard dime, no silver, no error, no commemorative status, this particular 1999 D Roosevelt dime, because of its exceptional condition and highest graded status, reached a coin value of $62,000. Let that sink in, $62,000, for a dime most people wouldn't think twice about. This isn't just a case of rarity or age. It's a case of how flawless preservation can transform an everyday coin into something extraordinary. In this case, the coin was pulled aside, stored under ideal conditions, and eventually recognized by experts for what it was, a standout, a one-in-many-millions example of perfect modern minting. So, what does this tell us? It tells us that even in the most recent decades, even in the most common denominations, there are coins that break the mold. Coins that, because of how they were struck and how they were preserved, end up being worth thousands of times more than their face value. And finally, let's turn our attention to the last coin in today's lineup, the 2005 D Roosevelt dime. At first glance, this coin might seem like just another everyday dime. After all, it was minted less than 2 decades ago, during a time when coins like this were churned out in massive quantities for everyday use. No special designs, no silver content, and certainly no widespread fame attached to this particular year and mint mark. The Denver Mint, responsible for producing the 2005 D dime, was operating at full capacity in those years. Aside from the usual circulating coins, the Mint was also focused on several special projects like the Westward Journey series of nickels, which drew a lot of public attention. But the Roosevelt dime remained the steady, consistent coin it had been since the 1940s, small, practical, and mostly unnoticed. That's part of what makes this story so interesting. Because sometimes, the coins that seem least likely to be valuable are exactly where we find hidden gems. This 2005 D dime was no exception. While millions of these dimes entered circulation, the vast majority quickly picked up marks, scratches, or dulled under everyday wear and tear. Even those kept in collections often lose some of their original mint luster over time. But every once in a while, a coin emerges that seems untouched by time, a coin that retains the exact look it had when it left the mint. This dime was one of those rare survivors. Its details remained sharp and clear, from the delicate waves in Roosevelt's hair to the finely detailed lettering along the rim. The fields, those smooth backgrounds, were free from blemishes and distractions. Even under close examination, there were no signs of handling, rubbing, or surface damage. The original brightness and sheen reflected light in a way that most coins from that year simply can't anymore. This level of preservation is incredibly rare for a modern, clad coin that was produced for everyday use. Because of this, it was submitted to professional graders, who evaluated its condition with great care. Achieving a high grade for a coin like this requires it to be nearly flawless, free from imperfections that most coins of this era have. The grading process examines the coin under high magnification, checking for any surface issues, strike quality, and overall eye appeal. This dime met and exceeded those exacting standards, earning a position among the very best examples of the 2005 Roosevelt Dime known to collectors. Now, it's important to note that the value of a coin like this doesn't come from its metal content or from an unusual mistake. Instead, it comes from its rarity and condition, a rare quality for a coin that was meant to be used and passed around countless times. Collectors who focus on assembling top-quality sets prize coins like this because they represent the peak of what's available for that date and mint mark. In a world where the vast majority of 2005 dimes look worn or imperfect, this coin stands out as an extraordinary example of preservation. What's truly fascinating is how this coin's story reminds us of the role chance plays in the world of collecting. It might have been dropped into a coin roll, tucked away in a drawer, or simply forgotten in a pocket, yet, somehow, it escaped the fate of most coins that get scratched or worn. It survived the decades unscathed, a silent witness to history, waiting to be rediscovered. It's these rare finds that ignite the passion of collectors everywhere, proof that treasures can still be uncovered in the most ordinary places. This dime's journey from everyday pocket change to a prized collectible is a perfect example of why we never stop searching. So, what does that mean for the coin's worth? Well, for a dime that most people see as simple pocket change, this exceptional example has been recognized with a remarkable valuation of $36,000, a staggering figure that truly reflects how much condition matters to collectors and investors alike. In fact, coins like this demonstrate a broader truth about collecting. Sometimes, it's not the rarity of the coin's production that makes it valuable, but the rarity of its condition that can make all the difference. To put it simply, this coin's value is a testament to how sometimes, patience, care, and a bit of luck can turn even the most common coin into something truly special. If you've enjoyed this exploration of the 2005 Roosevelt Dime, remember, every coin has a story. Sometimes, the most unassuming pieces hold the most surprising secrets. Thanks so much for joining us on this journey through some of the most surprising and fascinating dimes out there. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more content like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss an update. We've got plenty more exciting coin finds and stories coming your way, so stay tuned. If you've got a favorite coin or a hidden gem of your own, drop a comment below. I love hearing about your collections and discoveries. Until next time, keep your eyes sharp and your collections growing.